Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Cave with me, Jenny. It is now time to do my November wrap-up. So I don't have too awful many books in this month. I did read some more, but they were for different projects. But yeah, this is everything that's just kind of random that I read that doesn't really fit anywhere else. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. So I listened to The Phone Booth at the End of the World, and this is inspired by a real place in Japan. And this is ultimately a story of grief and healing and family. It pretty much did make me tear up several times. It's a very emotional and hard-hitting story, and it definitely is very hopeful, and the ending is just absolute perfection in my opinion. And if there's ever anything more written about Yue and Takashi and Hana, I would definitely want to read it just to see how they continue to grow, because that is another thing. This book had some amazing character growth and some very realistic character growth and character worries. And I do definitely recommend this if you are willing to deal with the emotional aspect of it. I read An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helene Tursten, and this is from Sweden and is a collection of short stories about an elderly lady, Maud, who gets up to no good, obviously, specifically murder. And this was pretty tongue-in-cheek, rather irreverent, but I did find it at least somewhat amusing in the fact that, Maud kind of takes this stuff to extremes. Like, in the first story, she has a downstairs neighbor who is an artist living in a smaller apartment than what Maud has, and she comes to the conclusion that this woman wants her apartment so that she has more space. And Maud will not stand for that. Maud will not stand for having her shows interrupted by noise. Maud will not stand for youngsters being cheeky to her. That one at least wasn't murder. So had she murdered the boy who was just a little cheeky, I would have been very upset. But that one wasn't. So I was kind of like, okay, I guess I can be alright with Maud poking him with a pin. Yeah, that's kind of all she did. But the way she plays into her being, elderly, and kind of uses it to help people not suspect her, is honestly very intriguing to see. And I was reading the author's bio, and she has other books that have the police inspectors that are mentioned in a few of these stories. She has books about the police inspectors, so I'm kind of interested to read those and see if Maud shows up. And there is another series of stories about Maud, and I will definitely be reading that. These are very short books. This one was like 120 pages, I think, over 4 or 5 stories. And, very easy to read a story in a sitting. Very easy to read the whole thing in a sitting if you have, a little bit more time. So yeah, if you like murder mysteries, tongue-in-cheek mysteries, this would probably tickle your fancy, probably get a laugh or at least a chuckle out of you. And yeah, I'm going on to the second book now and see how much more trouble this elderly lady can get into. I finished the second book in the Elderly Lady series, and I did enjoy this one. I enjoyed the fact that it actually was framed overall, like each of these short stories was a dream that Maud had while she was en route to South Africa for a safari. And one thing that was kind of different from the first book is that I do feel like her murderous intent in most of these stories, at least, was not entirely an overreaction like it was in the other ones. And so it wasn't quite as, like, funny. Not that it's funny, but it's just kind of like to see her go to just, oh, this person has to die for this stupid reason is kind of like just wow and like ridiculous. But yeah, so this one was a little tamer, I guess. And I did enjoy, though, the rather heartwarming ending that we get. That was pretty fun. So I do definitely recommend this series if you like kind of like mysteries and honorary old women who murder. But I do think An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good is probably the better of the two books. So I finished Waiting for Spring, and this is basically a typical Soho manga. It is a more modern one. It was published in, I believe, about 2013 or so to 2019, and it follows a high school girl, and she makes friends with the basketball team, or at least the four most popular players on the basketball team, and follows her and is kind of a sports romance slice of life. I do like that the friendships between her and all four of the male leads are built up really well, and she has a really good relationship with them, as well as having a few really good female friends. I do feel like Misuki could have been a little stronger, but this is something that she struggled with, is, self-esteem that was established from early on in the first book, so it's not like it's something that's just thrown in there, and, she is trying to work on it, and does get a little better with it. So overall, I thought it was pretty sweet. It wasn't really that different from other Soho romances set in high school that you would read, but the characters themselves are very well fleshed out, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot of like gags in this manga as there sometimes can be, and it's just like, okay, the same thing is going and going and going, and it gets old. In this one, we don't have that. So yeah, I think if you like a sports romance, if you're maybe new to the Soho genre, this wouldn't be a bad introduction. Or if you just really, really like Soho mangas that are, primarily in high school, I think this would be a good one as well. I did enjoy it. Just for me, having read as much manga as I have, like I said, it didn't bring anything new, but it wasn't bad either. So yeah, hopefully this will be a manga that a lot of you can enjoy if you check it out. So I read the whole series of Alice in Borderland, which is written and illustrated by Haru Eso, and this is the same author, at least, of Zom 100, which I've talked about several times, and I really loved that series. Alice in Borderland was not quite as good, in my opinion. It was still very good. It was very dark. However, I felt the ending was a little eh. It seems like it's an ending that's been done many times before. And the way that a lot of the women characters were written and treated was just a little off. A little just strange, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, overall, it was definitely a very interesting series, and it's not something I would recommend to a lot of people just because of the fact of how absolutely dark it is and how psychologically twisted it is. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind if you want to read it, as well as the fact that it is rated M for language, violence, and disturbing images. So, like I said, it's definitely not for everybody, but I did enjoy it myself. So that's everything I read in November, and I have some books I want to finish in December, and I also have some books that I picked up from the library that I would like to start this year. They may get pushed into 2024. So I got 2 books by Bram, which is The Child Thief, which is a dark retelling of Peter Pan, and Slewfoot, which is about a young girl who's accused of being a witch. Turns out she actually is. And yeah, they just both sounded intriguing, so I'm definitely interested to get to those. And then I got Invisible Planets and Broken Stars, which are translated short Chinese science fiction stories. Both of these are anthologies translated by Ken Liu. He wrote The Dandelion Dynasty, which I'm also interested in reading, but I figured this would maybe be a way to get into some more sci-fi, which I do like. And we have 13 stories and 16 stories, so I might wind up reading these kind of like in between other books since they are, all short stories. Then what I would like to finish is Foxglove, which I'm about halfway through, and then I'm about 70 pages into The Girl in the Stars, and I was working on this for the Book of the Ice video that will be up as soon as I'm done this and the other 2. Then What Souls Are Made Of, which I only got 30 pages into before I got distracted by other books, so I'm going to probably restart that. And then I have my last book for my Michio Keiko video, which is The Future of Humanity, and I'm not very far into this one either. And then I have 2 Adrian Chbosky books, which is Children of Rune, which I'm about a third of the way into, and Elder Race, which I'm also about a third of the way into, but I believe I'm going to restart this one when I get to it, since again it has been a while since I read it. But yeah, that's all the new books I've gotten recently, what I'm hoping to finish this year, and I hope you all enjoyed this, and thank you for joining me again in the book cave. And as always, if you like my videos, and want to see more bookish content, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you next time in the book cave.